I was the only watchman for the CLEARFALL station. To even call it a station would give you the wrong impression of it. About the size of a large barn, CLEARFALL station wasn't more than a large concrete building divided into 4 rooms. It sat in the forest like a Lego brick dropped in the middle of nowhere. The station's main function was as a safe house, but occasionally I would be called in for emergency help in a search and rescue, or a stranded hunter would drop by. Finding a watchman that was willing to work at CLEARFALL was always a difficult endeavor. Personally, I saw it as a perfect opportunity. The posting was a free room and board in a location away from the things that bothered me the most about the world: the people. Before I started working CLEARFALL, the watchmen were cycled in and out on a month-to-month basis. At the time of the story, I had been working at CLEARFALL for a year straight. I didn't need to be cycled out, and everyone seemed relieved that they didn't have to look for replacement watchmen to work the station. I enjoyed my post in isolation so much that bringing me back to the normal world had become a punishment that I was threatened with. There was a storm coming in that night. Something about storms calms me. I do my best work when I'm stuck indoors, safe and comfortable as the storm rages on outside. My mind can focus so much sharper. I'm not quite sure why. It could be that I know for a fact no one will randomly be dropping by the station. People rarely came by, but without that remote obligation hanging over my head, I could fully concentrate on whatever I wanted to. You can imagine my surprise when, during the snowstorm, I heard 3 distinctive successive gunshots ring out from the front of the station. I immediately recognized it as a distress call and made my way to the front so I could check the cameras and see who it was. I was more than likely going to let him in, but I wanted to make sure. Sure enough, it was a hunter. He was holding up his patch and tags towards the cameras at the front door. His patch was from the other side of the country. I found it odd right away that he was this far out. Not that hunters don't travel, but usually they stayed in their respective section of the country. I buzzed him into the station despite my initial feelings. We exchanged the normal courtesies and small talk about the weather before I showed him to the room he could bunk in for the time being, at least until the storm passed. He explained that he had become trapped out in the forest in the snowstorm, and remembered my station was just up the mountain a little. According to him, he was hunting lizardmen for the past week. Again, I found this odd. There had only been a handful of lizardmen encounters in that forest. I could count on one hand the amount of lizard hunts that had taken place, and none of them had occurred since I had taken my post at CLEARFALL. I decided to shrug it off, but I couldn't help but put everything he said under scrutiny from then on. I had a feeling he was up to something. There was some sort of ulterior motive to him coming by. I could sense it in the way he tried to lead the conversation. "I heard all watchmen are, or used to be, wardens. Is that true?" he asked as he walked around my library and undoubtedly saw my extensive collection of magic-related books. He was correct. Most wardens become watchmen, or vice versa. The solitude of the watchman jobs had a way of attracting magic wardens. Wardens are inherently antisocial. "Do you dabble in magic?" I asked him. "I try. I can never get it to work for me. Something about me and magic just doesn't mesh. I am interested in nectars, though." He grabbed a book off the shelf and began thumbing through it. I recognized it as a nectar brewing handbook. All hunters were obsessed with nectars. All people involved in our thing were obsessed with nectars, honestly. It's power in a bottle, the ultimate energy drink, and I'll admit the concept is pretty alluring. "I noticed your tattoos. Are those nectar tats?" he asked. "They are." "Did you do them yourself?" I started looking at my own tattoos rolling up my sleeves so I and he could get a better look at them. "What does that one do?" He pointed at the long tattoo that snaked its way down and up my arms towards my shoulder. "It increases the energy flow down to my hands. It's all about energy flow. Do you have any?" "Not yet. I want some, though," he answered. "Hunters should all have nectar tats. I really don't know how you guys tangle with monsters without them." "Well," he placed the book back on the shelf and headed over to his bag that he placed against the wall. Reaching into his bag, he produced 2 large bottles. One of them was filled with thick, almost purple and black blood, and the other contained more of the same blood, but also a heart. My heart jumped for a second. As a warden and a watchman, I didn't come across monster blood or hearts unless I bought them off hunters, and they rarely sold them to me. I'm guessing you caught the lizard man you were hunting. One of them, yes. There's more out there, but those bastards are deep in the caves now. This was the dumb, slow one. He smiled, holding up the 2 bottles and making his way over to me. He placed them on the table in front of me and took a seat. Can you do something with this? He asked. I looked at the bottles, trying to contain my excitement. I knew there was an ulterior motive, but I was okay with this one. I can. What did you want to do with them? You tell me, you're the warden. I can make you tattoo ink out of the blood, but the heart... If you're wanting a heartstone, that'll take some time and some more supplies. Ones I don't have here. How about... He pushed the blood bottle closer to me. You turn this one into ink. He pushed the heart closer to me. And you keep this one as payment. That was an amazing deal. A little too good to be true, but the temptation was too much to pass by. It didn't take long to make up my mind. I agreed to take the blood and in turn it into ink, a process that only took a few hours, and in turn I would get the lizard heart as payment. In a few months I could turn that heart into a heartstone and keep it or sell it for a great price. By the time I was done transmuting the blood into usable tattoo ink form, the storm had passed. He behaved himself the whole time, just quietly sitting and patiently waiting for me to finish. We made the exchange of goods, and he took off back into the forest not long after that. As soon as he was gone, I took the heart into the workshop and started to look it over. I hadn't taken the time yet to give it a good once-over. Right away, I noticed something, and a feeling of dread washed over me from head to toe. The heart was much too small. As I turned the bottle and it fell against the glass, I got a closer look at it. Yep, much too small and lacking all the characteristics of monster hearts I had seen and dealt with before. Most monster hearts had scarring all around the outside, like lightning scars running all up and down the heart. This was just a normal animal heart, though. I sighed when I realized what had just happened. The hunter had broken the agreed-upon rule of our thing. There was a code among all hunters, wardens, guardians, watchmen, and machinists. Anyone involved in our thing agrees not to screw each other over. There had to be an unified front on our side, or this whole thing could collapse. His betrayal was something I didn't want to deal with. I was happy just hiding away in my little hobbit hole of a station. Unfortunately, I knew I was going to have to restore balance to this. I couldn't let him get away with tricking me. Not because of my ego being hurt or some personal case of revenge, but because our thing relies on balance and harmony. The hunter had tricked me, and he wasn't honest. He had thrown off the balance of our system. I was going to have to root him out before he continued to throw more parts of our machine into imbalance. It was the last thing I wanted to do, but I was going to have to hunt the hunter. To be continued.